Hello, everybody. It's Old Bear from the Old Bear's Den of Bigfoot. We're getting ready to start the show. Let's go. Hello, everybody. Uh, excuse me. Um, we have a young gentleman that is a Bigfooter, an accomplished researcher of Bigfoot. He's accomplished in my book, whether he is in yours or not, I don't know. Uh, he's uh, he's a good young man. He's a family man. He takes this very seriously. And he has a Bigfoot group that is on Facebook. And if you go over and join it, it would make me very happy. So let's bring him on. And of course, I got my moderator out there, and she's in the comment section. And here comes Mr. Josh. How you
Everybody,
doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
A little tired today. I went out and was supposed to work today, got there, and nobody was there and brought the load back. That makes for a long day.
Oh yeah.
So, Josh, before we get into the meat of the live tonight, why don't you tell everybody about your group on Facebook? Tell them the name and go from
Yeah.
there, sir.
My group is called Buckeye Cryptid Society of Bigfoot Research. I am the founder of it. I wanted to start researching Bigfoot, and when I did, I started to see a lot of where you got pictures where there was a lot of questions. So I made my group to where if you can't look at a photo or you can't hear something and 100% tell that it is something that is not identifiable, this is not going to be posted. I'm very strict on them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. You're keeping everybody honest. Um, and I appreciate that because I've seen a lot of pictures out there and a lot of recordings that, well,
Next question?
foxes and coyotes are not Bigfoot. And I'll
No,
just say that.
no. I own two foxes. And I'll tell you, the red fox, if you hear it scream at the right time,
Yep.
it'll make you think twice,
Yep.
but it is not a Bigfoot scream.
Uh-uh. So why don't you tell us how you got into the Bigfoot field? What caused
Well,
you? Was it a sighting or what caused you to get into it?
well, what had happened was is I was around 6 years old, and my grandpa's property is not very big. He owned a trailer court, but there was the woods back there that you could hunt. Well, us kids could go back there and hunt. Well, because I lived on the trailer court, I was allowed to go back there. Well, there was a certain section of that woods that my grandfather told every one of us grandkids, all of us kids, never to go back there. Well, There you know me. I'm stubborn and hard headed.
The second part is what I was going to say, but I'll take the first.
Um, I went back there because I wanted to know why in the world is my grandfather telling me, I grew up around exotic animals. What is going on back there? So I went back. And when I went back there, I stayed for a couple hours, nothing happened. I
Hmm.
went back the next night. I heard something, but I couldn't really distinguish what it was. So finally, I went back and I set up a little stick shelter and put a tarp over it. And I stayed up. Well, that next morning, um, I woke up. Actually, got scared. Woke up. Um, I had a hand. And I never have divulged this to anybody. I've never told this story to anybody. But I had a hand, and I had the opening up here, and it was kind of like the A-frame you'd build, and reached in and it was rubbing my head. And I looked, all I did was I thought, who in the world is out here with hands? There's no person I know that should be on this property except me. And I looked up and there's a jet white. I mean white. And you could see he was male, you could see every part.
Hmm.
They're rubbing my head. It was sitting on the log, like where I had my A-frame shelter. It was sitting on it with its hand hung down, just rubbing my head. I mean, it scared me quite a bit. So I waited, and it seemed like 15 minutes went by. Probably was that, but I was a young kid, and time seems longer. I just, I relaxed. I closed my eyes. Honestly, it was gone. Like I heard it walk off. I heard the branches break. I heard it get up. I got up. So I wanted to see what it was. I wanted to see a better picture of what this thing was. I got out and about 6 feet away from where I was.
Hmm.
I thought he was a lot further. He was standing there, had his back turned towards me. I was standing against a tree. And I know I measured this tree, knowing animals, the branch where it was at the top of his head was 9 foot.
It's a good size one.
Uh-huh. And I, I just froze. And I'm like, what is that? Well, a couple of days went by, and he's like, "You going back up there again?" I said, "Yeah, I got questions." I went up, and well, it took probably about 4 days because I had school. Went up, and next thing I know, where I had an A-frame tent where I was staying that night, where I was, he was back at the tree. And what I didn't realize then, because I was too focused on that Bigfoot, that was an apple tree, one of them wild apple trees.
Hmm.
And when I walked up there, he was standing there, grabbing apples off the tree, eating them. And I just stood there. Well, ever since I've watched that family, because for him came a female. After that, just would sit in the same spot every time. We'd sit where the A-frame tent was, not too far from it. They never minded I was there unless I brought a camera or anything to video them. I would sit there and watch them. I went down and I told my grandfather. My grandfather was the only one I told. I said, I didn't tell him what happened that night or that morning, but I told him what I had seen. He said, I told you not to go up there. And he said, your grandfather Clayton, who owned this property before me, had trees pushed over, almost landed on him. We were told never to go on that. Um, I never told my grandpa, but I kept sneaking back up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what got me interested in Bigfoot. I had questions from there. You know, honestly, if someone asked me at first, I thought it was a human.
Right.
And I thought they were in a ghillie suit and they were on stilts trying to prank me. I thought it was one of my cousins.
Hmm.
Uh, in my grandmother's grave, I do. But when I started seeing it eating apples, and you could see the fangs, you could see everything, then it got real. And then I'm like, I just have to know. And it went from there.
Okay. Well, that was an eventful time for you at a young age.
Yes.
Um, so, why do you think when you were a child it didn't scare you any more than it did? That it just piqued your interest even more? You didn't get scared?
It was more exonerated by it happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was finding Bigfoot on TV. Anybody that knew me as a kid, if it was on Discovery Channel or if it was on Animal Planet, I was watching it. I didn't like cartoons. And I always thought it'd be funny if I actually would see one. Well, when I did, it was like, okay. So I also, like I said, growing up, even at a younger age,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with an uncle who had bears, he had tigers, he had grizzly bears. And as that young kid, I would be going to help him feed. I would get in
Right.
the cage with him. So for something like that, it wasn't scary to me. It was more, what was it? How can I explain what happened? And what can I learn from it? Every animal in the woods. And may be sound strange, but they can teach you a lesson of how everything is. There was fangs on it, Scott, but it was more, you know, let's say you see your first fox and say you're in love with them and you want to own them. That's kind of it wasn't. I didn't want to own them. I wanted to learn anything and everything there was to be about them. Oh,
Well, let me ask you a question on it since Scott brought it up. When you said fangs, now were they protruding out past the lips?
no, they when they came down, this was his mouth.
Uh-huh.
Came down right into here, but they went down inside the bottom gum.
And outside the lip. Okay, so it
Yeah,
was longer canines is pretty much what it
yeah,
was. Okay.
yeah. I mean, the way they were longer than the rest of the teeth,
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I would consider them. I call them fangs because if you look at cats and stuff, they consider them fangs when they protrude a little longer than the other teeth. That's why
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah. I'm not gonna touch that one. Uh, Get me in trouble. Uh, but anyway, when you got older in your
Mhm,
20s and stuff, did you've continued doing Bigfoot pretty much through your 20s and now you're in your early 30s?
mhm.
And what do you do now? I mean, what have you done in the last 10 years when it comes to these creatures? Do you still go to that same place and research them, or do you go all over
Um,
Ohio?
I try to go all over Ohio.
Mhm.
Um, it's a little harder with having the kids and stuff now. I mainly go to Coshocton, Ohio, and down to Salt Fork. There's my two main places I really go. My grandfather passed away So it's been they're auctioning that part of the woods, and I am not allowed to go back up there. He passed away last year. I used to go back up there, but they got driven out of it. Bunch of people were going up partying. They were going up shooting guns, and it drove them out of the woods to that spot. I mean, a lot of people weren't. The grandkids weren't listening. They were going up there shooting deer, and so it kind of ran them out of there, which to me upset me because they belong there. That was their part of the property. We had
Mm-hmm.
the other land, and that was sad. But I did find where they moved to. So before I started going to Coshocton and that, because they got driven out of this place, I found where they were at after this. They were in the Honey Run area, which was like 5 minutes from my house.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's became a public park, like a county park. And there's people going in, they're taking all the mushrooms out of there, any edible plants, they're stomping on them. So there's like no food for them to get basically through. Sorry about that. And now that they've moved out of that area, I have not figured out. I've been looking for a while. I haven't figured out where they went. I've tried to track them. I've went through the woods. I've asked people to go on their property. Hey, can I see what these coyotes are moving in your property? So they don't know what I'm looking for. And I haven't found them. Once,
Bless you.
thank you. Um, so we kind of moved on to like Woodbury area,
Mm-hmm.
Stockton area. Um, Now I have progressively started to pick up where them ones are. I've gotten sounds, really got photo, well, I have, but they're not distinguished enough to post. But that's basically my area of researching.
Well, I got a question for you here, Josh. Charmaine
Uh,
wants to know. You see that?
how do we find? I am, if you look on Facebook, go under groups and you go to Buckeye Cryptid Society of Bigfoot Research. You can find me on Facebook under the Facebook groups.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about some experiences that you've had at Salt Fork.
Okay.
Um, I don't want to talk about me doing screams because we've heard all about those.
Or
And
you
no, I don't
you
scream like a girl, so don't nobody ask that question. Icebox.
or you coughing.
Yeah, it's pretty bad when you make a grown man turn into a little kid giggling. But anyway, tell us about some of the experiences that you've had there at Salt Fork.
Well, my first night at Salt Fort, camping out was my first time. You go into camp on there's been there. If you go back in, there's the road that goes this way, the road that goes this way, and then it goes all the way back, and there's that wood line, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
that trail. Off to the right, where that spot is, where they say if you're a newbie and you camp there, you won't come back. I did it. Was in a little 4-man tent.
Yeah, I remember that weekend.
Uh-huh. I was sitting there and just laid there, just laying. And something peek its face into my tent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, I need to back up because there was something that happened before that, and I had it here at the house. I just can't remember where I had it put up in my office at. We were all at the fire. You were
Yeah.
down there. I walked up. I was walking up to my camp, and all I seen was like this light. Looked like there was a fire in front of my tent, and I had a
Mhm.
citronella candle sitting there, but it wasn't my citronella candle lit. There was one sitting there lit that nobody left me. I went to everyone asking if they stuck a citronella candle there. I mean, it had like this much left of it. And so I just left it sit there and I let it burn. Well, when we all turned in and I laid down, that's when I started hearing a little noise. And that's when I looked at the screen because I had my thing unzipped. I had this face pop in and go, I was sitting there going, okay, I don't know if these ones are aggressive. The ones I've had, I haven't had any aggression yet. And all of a sudden, I sneezed, and and it went. And I mean, it did that exact noise. And I thought, oh, I'm in a tent. I just messed up. This thing's twice my height. And yet, it didn't do anything. I had crawled back, went around the side of my tent because I could see it with that fire, and it stood up. And it went right around the back of my tent, took its hand and went like this on the back of my head, and walked back in that woods. Didn't walk on that trail, but back in that thicket of the woods, walked straight back in
Mhm.
there. And I just laid there and I was like, interesting. And other events that I've had where I do whistling for them, and I've
Mhm.
had really good luck with whistling to get them to answer me back or to get them to come closer. And I think it was, you weren't there. It was Bob and Misty.
Mhm.
And I do believe I was with Elizabeth. And we were down on, is that Fogle Road? That road that's what up to where the swamp is and on the
Mhm.
left. We went down there. Bob and Misty they were looking at places in that. And Bob's like, there's something back there. And I said, hold on a minute, let me whistle. And so I took a deep breath in and I let out this long whistle. Well, we heard footsteps keep coming towards us. And then all of a sudden it stopped and it whistled again. Well, then I came a little closer and I did a different whistle and it mimicked and it's coming closer each time I tried a different whistle. Well, finally it got in with where we could see it with night vision. And all of a sudden, Misty was the one that she's like, we need to back out. We need to get in the cars. And she got a little nervous. And I'm like, just trying to see what's making the whistling noise. It's not its typical whistle. It's not, you know, I'm doing it pretty long. It's not normal for a human to whistle like. And she's like, I don't care. We need to get out of here. And
Yeah.
so we went back to camp. The other times I've had where I was at Hozak's Cave, didn't really have a sighting of them. Not to that. Some of them I haven't seen, but I've been back where I was at Hozak's. I was sitting there. I was kind of tossing little pebbles in the water, and I kind of whistled, and all of a sudden, not a rock like this, I'm talking a boulder came flying
Mhm.
out of that top of that hill, landed in the water, and I stopped. And I'm like, "Was that due to me whistling?" So I tried it again, and I repeated this 5 times to know that 100% it was something that was doing it to my whistle. Yeah. Each time they got closer and closer to shore. So I decided to back out.
That's understandable.
Um, now we found at down at 57, we had where it went dead silent. Now, the sad part about this is I cannot tell you what if this was between a dogman or a
Mhm.
Bigfoot. because the growl was almost similar, and I've seen both, was almost similar to both of them. So I could not credit that one to either or. But I have had activity at 57. Um, Other than that, most of my reactions that I've had have been at camp or at Kozak's camp.
Mhm. Let's talk a little bit about Hozak's Cave.
Mhm.
Now, you know that's where I want to go
Yes.
the night of my birthday. And uh, other than the rocks being thrown, than the rock being thrown, have you ever had anything else aggressive happen to you there
At a Bigfoot or
from Bigfoot?
cryptids period. At a Bigfoot. Yeah, well, I think Maya and I down there.
Hmm.
Um, Maya and I and the kids were down there. We were taking photos, just doing family photos, and this was during the day. And I don't know if it was whistling at me or if it was whistling at Maya. Nobody else. I mean, it was empty down there. There was nobody there. And
Hmm.
Maya got a dog whistle. It seemed right at Maya because I was walking away from Maya to get because Damien was running, and that whistle happened there. Now, where I've seen eye shine at top
Hmm.
and that, but at an aggressive level, I've not had any other aggressive anything on it. Now, I
That's
did want
good.
to ask you something because there is something that happened at Josex, and I did portray it as Bigfoot, but you've been doing this 40 years. I've been doing it since I was a kid. I've only had this happen twice. I've seen the black silhouette, the big muscular silhouette, but the eyes did not shine.
Okay.
They were like if you're looking at my eyes where they're not where they don't have a light in them, then they would be normal. They were brown. You could see the silhouette of the creature. There was no eye shine. You ever came across that?
Yeah. I've come across quite a few Bigfoot that do their eyes don't shine. Unless you
That
shine the light directly in their eyes, and then they do.
well,
But some
that's what I
don't.
wanted to that's what I wanted to ask you. I did that. This was at night. I had a headlamp on, and they did not shine. You are
Hmm.
brown. You are brown. I mean, you could see the whites of them. You could see the pupil, and you could see the coloration. Had this happen twice in my whole career of doing bigfooting, and I've seen this twice. Now, the first one I had a very, very bad reaction with. It charged, and the only way I got away from it was I jumped in the river and went down river from it.
Right.
The other one just stood there like it was a posture like, go ahead. You think
Yeah.
you're gonna, I don't know. I've never came across that. I've been trying to figure that out big time. That was the only other thing at Salt Fork. It wasn't like he was being, you know, like proclaimed it as being a dominant male. Kind of like, go ahead. You think you're tough or you think you're going to do something, I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've not had anything happen.
Okay. Um, one of the viewers wants to know if you could move just a little closer to the microphone there, Josh. They're having a little bit of trouble under hearing everything you're saying.
Hold on, I'm on my headphones. Let me see. Is it okay if can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Just every once in a while, if you put your hand in front of your mouth,
Oh, okay,
it
okay,
it
yeah, I can.
it kills your mic.
Okay, I will. I'll keep on for that.
So, Josh, I know we've talked about this,
Hmm.
and you've got my opinion on these creatures. What's your opinion of these creatures? Where do they come from? What do you consider? Now, I know you're the reason I'm asking you simply, my friend, is because you're going to school for this.
Yes.
I want to hear your opinion, your official opinion.
Um, my
You're the one that's
official
going.
opinion,
You got the ah, the
the degree.
degree coming. So,
Yeah. My opinion is if you look back far enough in history,
mhm,
and you're looking at all these ruins where we're finding giant humans, and and that, then you look at what we had of ancient human beings where
mhm,
they did have more hair on their body than anybody else. I
mhm,
would be further down the line. I almost wonder if they have inbred or bred, or they have caused a giant, almost like humans, but a giantism.
mhm,
And if you, so it's kind of hard to how to explain what I mean because we have evidence that we have giants on Earth, that we have giants on Earth.
mhm,
We have evidence of feral humans.
mhm,
So if you were to think about it, if they bred, could be an evolutionary product of that.
mhm,
But I'm also I have a different hypothesis. That's the one I've came up with on my schooling, but it my thought on it is changing a lot now that the new, and I can't divulge into too much on it, but some new evidence has came out. Um, we can say this: they got a chimpanzee to say human words. And if you can teach a human to talk, a monkey to talk, when you got a chimpanzee to mate with a human, or you got something like that,
mhm,
you could have caused a hybrid, like what we have of the toy wolves and all that.
mhm,
Now, the one I told you in the first place was the one I have written down for my thesis and
mhm.
everything. But with the new evidence, I kind of have to waver on that now because of new
Well,
evidence.
well, I understand that. I understand. So, tell me a couple of incidences that you've been in at the group camping area at Salt Fort.
Well, we'll go with this past camp out.
Okay.
We had a guy, and everybody is laughing about this on Grizzly's thing. Um, he hung chicken, raw chicken, behind my
Mhm,
tent down in the woods, and I did not know about it. I heard some rustling in back in the woods, and I'm sitting going, "What in the world is that?" Took my light, and I was getting ready to unzip my tent because I had my thermal in there. And start to unzip my tent, and I get about, and my tent goes all the way up. I get about here. The next thing I hear is something charging out of that woods full board. And I just stood there. And I'm like, I'm not moving. I have nowhere to move. I have nowhere to go. And I'm a big guy. So if you want to bulldoze me over, that's not much I'm going to do.
yeah.
And that happened twice. Now, the other one, the other incident, I was walking down Buckeye Trail.
Mhm,
And I was down by the lake because I heard broke off from the crew and I went through the woods down by the lake. And I heard splashing in the water. Well, all I seen was a bunch of arms come up, and there was long straight hair coming off the forearm, and I seen this driplets of water. I tried to sneak a little closer. Should never done it. Never should have done it. All I remember is getting hit with infrasound and coming to when I was at the Buckeye Trail sign.
Mm-hmm.
And don't remember the whole hike back. It was probably about 3 miles back there.
Yeah.
Um, the thing was, is I caught it on video, and there was a shadow following me. Well, by for one instant, I caught a footfall not too far from me. And when I mean
Mm-hmm.
foot, I don't mean human. Talking a foot this long, and it was maybe this far to the side. And that whole day wasn't right. I was sick to my stomach. I had a pounding headache. I didn't want to punch myself in the gut because I knew my gut was telling me to stay out of there,
Mm-hmm.
but my head was saying, "You got to find out."
Well, I understand that, but which one do you think you should have listened to that day?
My gut.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
that's sure.
But the other instance that I had happen at camp, we were at Amy Copeland's camp out,
Mm-hmm.
and we all came back. I think we were swimming, and she said she had placed her towel on the line of her tent. It wasn't there. We looked everywhere, so I thought, and she was back by that back trail on more towards the left side of where I camped the first time when we're talking. And I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, a juvenile played a game on her, took it back uh, trail and hung it up, just trying to play games. So I grabbed a flashlight and I went by myself. Now, when I tell people don't go by yourself, don't go by yourself. Don't be me. Don't be the stubborn one that goes by yourself when you really
Speak for
shouldn't.
yourself.
Hey, I research by myself, but there's times that I look at everybody and I'm like, don't do what I do.
Yeah.
I, I'm different. But
Yeah.
anyways, I went back there and I got about maybe 40 yards back there, and there's this patch where there's no leaf fall on the ground. It's pretty muddy. And I was shining my flashlight this way, and I went to shine it this way, and all of a sudden I got a hand. And like I said, I'm not a small guy. It wrapped all around my shoulder, and I got a forearm here. I got flung from the right side of that trail to the left side, and I hit my head on the notch of the tree and hit my shoulder on the stick, and I was laying there. Came to find out I did have a partial rotator cuff tear on that shoulder, and what I think happened is I got too close, and the little one and a female was trying to cross. And as any parent knows, you get too close to your kids and you don't feel safe, you're going back to push someone, you're
Yep.
going to get them away.
Yep. So we were talking backstage before the show,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know whether you want to talk about this or not, but can I at least get your perspective of 5 a.m. in the morning, and we were there. Uh, Now I'm talking about when a certain person started sounding like a little girl. I want to get your perspective on that situation. I'm trying to get myself exonerated here. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead and give us your full account of what happened that morning.
Well, I was sitting on the picnic table over at Nevaeh and them because Nevaeh was scared to go to sleep.
Hmm.
And like you, I had already before you even came out of your camper, I had already seen something over there. I told Nevaeh to stay sitting, and I went over and I seen it kind of poking around, but it was on the backside of your camper. And then I went back and I sat down. I didn't think much of it. And then I heard you come out. That I heard the whole conversation, and then all of a sudden I heard you what Grizzly said to you, man coughed.
Yeah, he said it was
Um,
non-human.
yeah, that's, I mean, that's me. I grew up around people that cough like that. I'm sorry, but I'm used to it.
Hmm.
So I, to me, it was a normal human cough.
Hmm.
But what made me laugh was when Grizzly fell out off the bed. I
Yeah,
started laughing, and I laughed so hard I fell. You know where their fire pit was?
yeah,
I picked the table, I fell right beside it.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. That was a fun morning. I think everybody in the campground was kind of woken up that morning,
Mm-hmm.
and it all started because I started to build a fire and something stomped both feet
Mm-hmm.
and brr,
Mm-hmm.
like it was pissed off at itself for making that noise. And I stood up and turned and looked, and there it is standing behind that bush that was behind Grizz's tent.
Mm-hmm.
And all that got started. Of course, I'm standing out there. I always, you know me, I always carry a firearm when
Mm-hmm.
I come up there. Um, the grass man has a bad reputation, and I don't want to take a chance. My wife's always with me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this thing was standing there, and I walked towards it, and Grizz comes out of his tent, and he's going, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "You had a visitor."
Mm-hmm.
And finally, he goes back to bed, and I go in and I get my socks, and I'm putting my sock and shoes on. And when I bent down to get the second one, pulled my sock on and went to get my shoe, I coughed. Now, I wasn't trying to scare anybody. I mean, that
Yeah.
time of the morning, I'm a little bit older. And sometimes you get stuff in your throat or whatever. And I was just
Yep.
clearing my throat. And I stop, Brian. You're making me laugh. Here, I'll show you what Brian said. Take a look. Anyway, um, I coughed. I mean, sometimes you cough, and it's a cough that's just in your chest or in your throat.
Yep.
Well, this one came from the diaphragm up, and I guess that scared Grizz because I had told him about the one that was standing behind his tent,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how the morning started. It was an eventful morning,
It
and
was.
that was. By the way, I wanted to ask you a question. How many Bigfoot have you seen in your lifetime since you've been
Mine.
researching? Yes.
I have exactly seen 30.
Well, you're only 7 behind me. You got 7 more to catch up, buddy.
I I honestly I have had a lot of people say I lie about seeing that many, but I hate to tell them, and this is the God's honest truth. If I'm in the woods and they're there, and have this sixth sense about me, I know they're there. I
Yep.
can tell you if they're behind me, I don't need that mirror to sit
Yep.
there and look back. I know to turn around, and I know, you know, and turn around right at the moment that they're getting ready to stop or trying to hide. And it just happens to be that way.
Leonard wants to know if all your sightings were in Ohio.
No. I used to. My grandmother, my great grandmother was, and my family were born in Pennsylvania. My mom
Hmm.
was born in Pennsylvania. I was born in Ohio. I was in about 10, 11. I was in Placerville, Washington, PA area. I don't know if you know where that's at.
Yeah.
Um, do you know where where that you used to call the quarry, where it was
Hmm.
paranormal? Okay, my grandma didn't live too far from it. And that, yeah, well, I know, Long Woods. That was right down the road from there. Remember that? I would
Hmm.
go down in there. My grandma would make fresh bread, and I'd sneak off and go down in there. I had seen one down there. I had seen three in Pennsylvania, and each one of those, I watched one run down a deer.
Hmm.
That was a nifty sight. That was kind of an eye opener that I had better watch myself. Um, then the other, and I probably should have never did this. Really should have never did this. I didn't have a gun. I didn't have anything bad happen. But this is how I know they make tools, and I know they make fire. It's good. Right behind me. Um, we don't get in a cave in Pennsylvania where there's nobody around, like for miles.
Hmm.
There's no way. Okay, one human's going to leave trash. Human's going to leave all sorts of signs. I'm sorry, I've been in the woods since I was a kid, and I taught survival. One way or another, you're going to leave signs. Um, I went in, and it really wasn't too much of a cave, but it kind of tucked in underneath. All I seen was a fire pit.
Mm.
There was no bedding. I mean, that was it. There was no rocks laid out. It just you could see the scorched part of the rock around the rocks. That was about it. And the third one was just, I mean, it was walking away. What did you get
This is my wife's. I got it for her. Where was we at? We were in
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, and we got it for her. And somebody in the audience made a mention of a watchdog. And no, gentlemen, it is not my ex girlfriend. I haven't had one of those for quite a long time. And you can speak to the wife on that come August. So this is hers, but it's a watchdog.
My son had this one made for me.
That's
They,
cute. I like that. I like
they
that
bought
one
me
even
this one.
more.
Yeah, this one's the Yeti, and this one went down to, it was something like Build a Bear.
Hmm.
It was, if you believe or remember correctly, he's Archie. And this one was Snow Snow. My kids named him.
Hey, there's nothing
Uh,
wrong with that.
And they got him for me. And then, wrong side. Then I have right here. I have this Bigfoot who has the lantern. And a friend of mine bought that for me with the citronella candle
Hmm.
incident. I was telling him about it. And he told me, hey,
Huh.
he gave it to me for a Christmas gift. He's like, you always got to remember that Bigfoot's walking in the woods with your citronella candle. It's an inside joke with him. So,
I
but,
understand that.
but other than that, I've most of my sightings have been in Ohio. I've only had
Mhm.
the three, and what actually kind of surprising. I don't know how many people would get it, but it would surprise me with the way they would stay in caves and stuff. You think wintertime and everything, they'd make fire. I mean, you hear counts with me doing my degree.
Mhm.
The Siberian one is known to make fire. Um, what other one is it? The Yowie is known to make fire. There's several others. So to come back to the United States, and as much as I've with my research, I found out from the Native Americans, and 75% myself, and talking with them, they traded with them. They traded with them.
Yep.
They taught them stuff. They used them for protection. Wouldn't help me one bit if they taught them how to make flint tools, how to do any of that. So, here, but I would love to prove it. And one day we may figure out a way to prove everybody, hey, they're real. But I'm
We
not
had
gonna
a we had a discussion on this,
Yep.
and it was a long discussion, which many of the people there that night, and I know you know the way of how to get it done. You have to go overseas, and they all have to agree upon it, and all that.
Mhm.
And I get that. And,
Mhm.
that's a way of getting the science world to actually look into these creatures a lot more than
Yeah.
what they are. But the thing of it is, sooner or later, somebody is going to do something, and
Mhm.
they're going to end up taking one of these creatures' lives. And I have no problem if they're attacking you and you didn't provoke it.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know me. I don't tell people to go out and shoot them.
No.
Um, I have never ever taken anything's life except when I'm deer hunting or squirrel hunting or something like that.
Yeah.
Hunting, providing for my family.
Yeah.
And I've never taken a life unless it was to preserve someone else's. And I told you my opinion was
Mhm.
to get the science world to jumpstart science research into them.
Yeah.
Somebody is going to end up shooting one.
Yep.
Don't want it to happen
No.
because I know the consequences. So do you.
Oh yeah.
Once that creature is brought out to the rest of the world, and they have that body there, and they've dissected it and trisected it and
Mhm.
tested every bit of DNA and everything else. You know as well as I do, the world's going to turn upside down.
Well.
There will be no more state forests, no more city parks,
Mhm.
no more national forests. You won't be able to go into them.
Not
People,
without special permits and everything, because just like they did with the that one, what was it, the Despicable Now?
hmm
It's gonna be a money thing.
yeah,
That's the thing. A lot of people, and I guess a lot of people don't realize this. They, I keep getting people that keep asking me, well, there's only one, right? No, there's not. There is thousands upon thousands. There's billions of these things. Then you're gonna have to understand is you can have maybe 10 acres.
Mhm.
You could be using that 10 acres. If there's an endangered species or a protected species, you are not going to be able to hunt on that land. You're not going to
Mhm.
be able to use it. It's going to become a government protected place. And a lot of people really right now, we're seeing a big downfall in them timbering, fracking in the state parks. So when they're getting money like that, and then this comes out that these are real, this country's going to lose a lot of money.
It ain't only us. It'll be every country in the world.
Well, except one. Do you know that China, and this is something that I did not know until I dove real deep into this,
Mm-hmm.
there is the national forest. Unless you are Chinese or you have government permission, you are not allowed to go in. That part is protected for the fact that the government believes they are um when is it? I do believe it's not the ring pendic.
The
Yeah,
year,
well, something like that. And it is, they do believe that whole part is just for it. And that's in China.
yeah,
Um, now, for the rest of the country, I see them losing money. And we all know what happens when countries lose money.
yep. Standing Stones. Standing Stones wants to know if you can describe the types of faces you have seen, whether they're black face, gray with hair, etc. And describe some of the ones you've seen in the face that you've seen their faces. If you don't mind,
Um,
sir.
no, not at all. The very first one I seen, his hair was white and his skin was gray, like I really don't want to say gray because it was kind of, you know how you get an older person and their skin kind of fades out in color a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Was that he had wrinkles a lot more? I thought at that time it had to do with age. I didn't think, leathery face, all that stuff. His hair, and I'm gonna pull off my hat for a second. Most of the ones I've seen have changed their hair to here, or their hair is cut off up here, and they have the human-like face, where it came down. Now I've had instance where I've had ones with the hair has came down a little more and covered the face a little more, kind of like as you see in the pattern film, where the hair is more predominant in the face. I
Mm-hmm.
have seen that. That's only been a couple of times. Um, you don't know what this one was. I did see one that scared me because I'm gonna put it out there. I don't know if anybody knew me in the past. I was a paranormal investigator.
Mm-hmm.
Referred to it as a demon. I mean, the like razor sharp teeth. I don't know that. That one was that. I've seen black where they've had black skin. I've seen where they've had gray. I've seen where it's a little flushed out. Um, they've had a little bit of a brownish tinge where kind of like a deep tan up would be. Now from hair colors or light colors, I've seen mainly brown. Seen one with black. Um, Hair colors I've seen just about any because that's the sad part. You got there. People don't realize when you get seeing these and you see a family unit, they're not all the same color.
Nope. Nope.
One can be white, one can be black, one can be brown, one can be have the blondest tinge to it. There's all of it.
Well, I'll tell you, you bring up the blonde. You said blonde just now. And in North Carolina, there is one that I know of,
Mhm.
personally know of,
Yeah.
along with a lady that lives in North Carolina. Uh, there was a blonde one that walked past the back of my truck, the length of my bed of my pickup from me. I was in, you remember my blue pickup that I had, the blue Dodge? I was in the back seat. I had leaned in the back seat to get something, and it walked right past the back of my truck. And when it walked past my truck, it hit the Reese hitch that's on the back of my pickup
Mm-hmm.
and shook my pickup, and that's why I looked up and saw it. And it was standing there underneath a street light, all blonde hair from the top of its head all the way down to its feet.
Hmm. Now, see, most of the blonde haired ones that I've seen,
Hmm.
was this a female?
No, this was a big male.
This was a
Big,
male.
big
Now,
male.
see, most of the ones that I've seen that have the lighter, like color, like the more blondish, they've been females.
Yeah. Well, this one was, he was you would have to almost call him um, a dirty blonde,
Okay.
like a more yellowish color to his hair.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so no, he was a male, definite male. There was no mistaking what he was because he was standing under the street light, no breasts. He's a typical southern type of Bigfoot. He didn't have he's big and muscular and broad in the shoulders, but he didn't have the extra bulk that they do here in the north.
Yeah.
Uh, he was thinner, but you could tell he was a full grown male. You couldn't mistake it.
Now, see, one thing I've noticed, and this is from other like pictures I've seen and stuff of other people that's posted pictures, kind of go from where you see like on the body part where
Hmm.
you'll see hair there, or you'll see where there's skin, and it's the eyes. I've seen both on that, but I've seen like different. It seems like different parts of different states. You
Yeah,
vary on that pretty distinctly,
yeah, yeah, they do.
and I've
Um,
also.
so tell me, how have you, I mean, in your research, have you found, like, I know you found footprints,
Mhm,
and I know you probably have found hair.
mhm,
Um, have you found handprints yet?
yes,
Okay.
one one right on my. They had one in the dirt that wasn't deep enough to cast, and then I had one that was in my one research area, and it looked like it went like this, and leaned over like the hood of my, what, my car. I
Hmm.
have a Ford Escape Sports Edition. Its face, you could see the whole entire face, but you could see the hands. It
Hmm.
was pressed against my windshield of my car.
That's a scary thought. Wonder what he was looking for.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I was about a mile into the woods when I got back. That's when I seen it. Um, excuse me. I happened to see a footprint down in front of me, like in the little gravel. You could barely make it out, but I could see it. Seen it in front of my vehicle, and I'm like, look, and I'm looking straight up at my windshield, and I'm like, ah, then I'm like, what was he looking for? And then I thought about it for a minute. And I'm like, I had the window cracked just a little bit on my car, and I didn't think about it. I was eating a Subway sub before I went into the woods.
Oh.
Hmm. And it dawned on me a couple days later. I didn't think about it because I had the Subway bag in there, and I had, the cases I had in my
Hmm.
car. I had the bag sitting, and it fell behind my case, and I had to go somewhere, and I didn't get the bag. Well, I was cleaning out my car, and I'm looking, and I'm like, that bag's still in there. From the end, it still smells like meat. I'm like, I don't know what he wanted. He was hoping there was a sock in there. He was going to get in there and get
Yep. Well, Josh,
this.
um, I've got you scheduled to come back on the 16th of August.
Mhm.
And when we come back on the 16th of August, if I would like for us to talk about what we are going to plan on doing that following weekend,
Okay.
starting on Thursday.
Okay.
And I want to tell you this. Thank you for coming. You brought a lot of information, not only from someone that's been seeing these creatures since they were a young child, but to also bring it from the standpoint of a learned scientist. You're basically going to be you're going to cryptozoologist, right?
Yep.
That'll be your title after you get your degree finished, right?
Yep. I should have it by the middle of next year.
Okay.
They added a whole bunch more courses that I have to take. Added new and the new there was a bunch of new requirements that we have to meet and everything. So we have to
Mhm.
do that, and then so it extended school out until the middle of next year.
Okay. So the next time you come on, we're just going to be two old buddies talking about what we're going to do squatching,
Okay,
if you don't mind.
that's perfectly fine.
Um, and I want everybody that has been here tonight, there's been up to almost 40 people on here at one time. And I would like all of y'all that watches this now or later to go to his Facebook page and get on his Facebook page. And maybe by the time that we have the next show with you, Josh, you'll
Mhm,
have an announcement to make. You know what I'm talking about.
mhm.
And um, I hope all of y'all go to his Facebook and sign up for his group. They're very knowledgeable people in that group. I'm part of it, and I invite you to come and find out what Josh knows. Not what I know, but what Josh knows. He's the leader of the group. I'm just sitting there in the wings. I'll be there, don't worry. And he's you're a wonderful investigator and a wonderful researcher, and people should know that. Um, so I'm thanking you as your friend, not as mentor or anything of that nature. I'm thanking you as a friend and a fellow squatcher for doing what you do and how you do it, and you do it honestly. And I applaud you for that.
I thank you for that very much.
So, what we're going to do, my friend, is we've been on here for almost an hour and 10 minutes,
Mhm.
and I'm getting funny looks. I promised somebody to go to Dairy Queen, and they close at 10 o'clock. So I got like 52 minutes left.
You get your
Anyway,
butt off there and get her to do.
yeah. So
And
we're going to end the show. And Josh, like I said, thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on.
no problem.
And you know as well as I do, I'd invite you to come back anytime you want. But I do want you here on the 16th. And I do
Okay.
want to talk about the camp out that we're going to have.
Okay.
And hopefully you will be making an announcement on that night. So, Josh, I appreciate it. And everybody here. Oh, and Charmaine has already went to Facebook and sent a request in to be approved for your group.
Okay.
And I hope everybody gets some fun out of this.
I got
And
one thing for you, Bear.
go right ahead, buddy.
I got something to bring you. I can't remind me to bring it.
Hmm.
I found something I don't think anybody's found yet. I want you to take a look at it first.
Is this going to be breaking?
More than likely.
Okay. Well, we're going to have a bunch of cameras there, so it's going to be really groundbreaking.
Let's just say this: it's a bone.
Ooh. Okay. That's intriguing. Very intriguing.
Yeah.
So buddy, thank you again for coming.
Yep.
You're a fountain of knowledge. People just don't know it yet, but you're good.
Thank you.
You're darn good. You're one of the better researchers that I know. And everybody, well, let me say this. Icebox, Dirt Road, I hate suspense too. And if I've got to endure it, my friend, so do you. Okay. But Josh, thank you again. I can't thank you enough, buddy.
Hey,
I
thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me.
Hey, I'll have you anytime. I got dates open. If you want to come back and talk, heck, I'll just set it up and sit back and listen. That's
All
all.
right.
That's all that matters to me.
All right.
You give that wonderful, beautiful wife of yours a big hug and kiss from me and my wife, and
Definitely
you
will.
give both of those beautiful children of yours a hug and kiss,
I definitely
and you
will.
give Grandma a big hug and kiss too.
Definitely will.
And I thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna end the show and all that, and I'll see you on the 16th. You don't have to stick around backstage.
Okay.
So enjoy yourself, my friend, and we'll see you here in a couple of weeks for a birthday party, I hope.
All righty.
All right, buddy.
All right.
We'll see you, buddy.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everybody, that was Josh. He's a wonderful young man. He's a very smart young man. Um, he's very good at being a Bigfoot researcher. So go check out his Facebook page. And like I was hinting to, he's got an announcement to make on the 16th. And I'll be supporting him through that too. Thank you all for coming. We love every one of you. You're our brothers and sisters in Christ. And whether you know it or not, we consider you family. And we thank you all for coming. May you all have a blessed night. And we'll talk to you all later. Thomas, I'll take a look at your stuff here in a minute. We'll talk to you later. Bye bye.